The man possessed an immortal body. Yet at this moment he was suffering a fate worse than death. What appeared to be an ordinary strike had completely destroyed his prized regenerative ability, simply because he faced the strongest boss of the abyss. Looking at his companions collapsed in pools of blood, the man finally understood. This was an abyssal boss that humanity could never possibly defeat. Just as despair consumed him completely, a hoarse, rasping roar caught his attention. Struggling to turn his head, he saw the girl continuously channeling magic power, casting healing spells. But due to the man's severe injuries, it was utterly futile to prevent the man from dying. Lee Yujung seemed to make a certain resolve. The next second, tremendous sacred magic power surged skyward, accompanied by a massive thunderous explosion that reverberated throughout the entire space. When he opened his eyes again, the once blurred carousel of memories gradually became clear. The familiar scene before him made him involuntarily reach out with his small hand. But when warm fingers intertwined with his mother's gentle voice, the man finally realized he had not died. Instead, he had returned to when he was 1 year old. At that moment, the man suddenly remembered. Before his death, Lee Yujung had cast a skill with only a 1 in 10,000 chance of success. Miracle. However, in his previous life, when he was 6 years old, his family had perished in a monster attack. It was precisely because of this that he became an immortal being, driven by hatred for monsters. Since heaven had given him another chance, this time he would risk his life to protect his family. After gaining the ability to move freely, the first thing Eunha did was enhance his magic power limit. In his previous life, it was because of insufficient magic power and lack of endurance that he struggled when facing hordes of monsters. Early training allowed Eunha to accidentally discover the truth about surviving his previous life. His sister possessed an enormous amount of magic power within her body. In the previous life, during the magic invasion, she had protected him by self-destructing her magic power. 2.5 years passed in the blink of an eye, and Eunha, who never left home, went out for a walk with his sister, because today would be the first time his sister encountered a monster attack. Sure enough, when passing through a small alley, a spine-chilling roar drew everyone's attention. When they looked ahead, a wild dog driven mad by magic corruption suddenly appeared. The moment she saw the wild dog, she stepped in front of him, but her trembling body still betrayed her inner fear. "Don't be afraid, Eunha, sister will protect you." However, it was precisely these words that brought long-buried memories from his previous life flooding back. He grabbed his sister's protective hand. "This time, I will be the one to protect sister." With that, he stepped forward in front of his sister. His eyes gazed coldly at the beast before him, and then tremendous magic power burst forth from his body. Seemingly sensing the terrifying aura of the man before it, the previously arrogant wild dog began trembling uncontrollably. Then he coldly shouted, "Get lost!" The next second, feeling the threat of death, the wild dog was scared into fleeing. As the magic power gradually dissipated, just as he was wondering how to explain to his sister, unexpectedly, his sister excitedly hugged him, asking if what just happened was magic power. She expressed her desire to learn magic as well. Seeing his sister pestering him relentlessly, Eunha breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that since she was his sister, such behavior was not surprising. Since he could not refuse her persistent requests, Eunha reluctantly agreed to teach his sister magic. Little did he know that Eunha had already planned this, hoping to help his sister control the tremendous magic power within her body as early as possible. So in the following days, Eunha taught his sister how to use and control magic power. However, what he did not expect was that although his sister possessed enviable magic power, her ability to control magic power was truly abysmal. Hearing this, his sister rolled up her sleeves defiantly, determined to completely conquer this spinning top today. As azure magic power gathered in her palm, tremendous magic power swirled around, driving the spinning top to rotate. As expected, the spinning top immediately went out of control, nearly destroying the family's only entertainment device. He had thought such peaceful days could continue forever, but they were interrupted by an unexpected event. It turned out that Eunha had reached the age to attend kindergarten, but with his actual age totaling 40 years, how could he mingle and play with a bunch of little kids? However, he had previously promised his mother that he would enter kindergarten at age 6. Just then, cheerful announcements from the television interrupted this conversation. The images displayed showed the building that changed human history, the Central Temple Main Hall. Since then, humans learned to use magic power and devoted themselves entirely to researching how to utilize it. But what humans did not know was that when the balance of magic power in the world was disrupted, it would cause monsters to appear. Therefore, during humanity's peak magic era, a terrifying event occurred that made everyone's blood run cold, the apocalyptic destruction that caused the world to lose 60% of its population. Since then, monsters could appear anywhere in the human world at any time, causing governments and laws to lose their balancing power. Taking their place were the power holders and wealthy from the old world, as well as players with powerful magic abilities. Those ordinary people without magic power could only survive desperately in isolated areas. In such desperate times, hope appeared, and she was the fairy Lim Gaeul from the Central Temple Main Hall. the original fairy who guarded the world. Her unique skill, Silver, could eliminate the imbalanced characteristics of magic power, ensuring the safety of human society. As Lim Gale gathered tremendous magic power in both hands, the moment she touched the orb, azure magic power shot skyward, forming a brilliant cross-shaped star, with her as the center point, spreading outward in all directions, creating a brilliant barrier to protect human society. After another 2.5 days, 6-year-old Eunha began his wonderful kindergarten life. After the teacher's simple introduction, Eunha, who did not want to be disturbed, quickly went to the relatively quiet children's library. After randomly selecting a book, he found a table and sat down. But it was precisely this quiet and handsome appearance that attracted the attention of a gentle girl nearby. Just as she was about to greet him, a boy with a bandage burst in, mocking the girl coldly. He even snatched the butterfly bow from the girl's head. Then he deliberately ran far away and threw it to his companion, refusing to return it no matter how the girl pleaded. Just as the girl was about to cry, an angry shout interrupted this scene. So childish. Hearing this, the blonde boy immediately flew into a rage. What did you just say? However, Eunha slowly rose from his chair, then approached the blonde boy. I said you're childish. Do you think this is fun? The provoked blonde boy could no longer contain him and threw a punch at Eunha. But Eunha easily dodged it, then simply kicked out, making the blonde boy spin a full 360 degrees, while simultaneously retrieving the stolen butterfly bow. As the blonde boy crashed to the ground with a thud, Eunha returned the butterfly bow to the girl. Don't let anyone snatch it away next time. The unconvinced blonde boy still wanted to make threats, but Eunha just turned back with a glare, scaring everyone into fleeing. Then the girl gently tugged at Eunha's sleeve, happily thanking him. Thank you for helping me get back my hairband. Only then did Eunha notice that unlike Minji and the blonde boy's magic power levels, the girl before him was surrounded by terrifying magic power, far exceeding even his sister's magic quantity. Moreover, according to Eunha's careful observation, she also possessed excellent control abilities. All the magic power in her body was concentrated together without any leakage. Such talent would surely become a renowned powerhouse even if she did not join the 12 thrones. But in his previous life, he had never heard the name Hyang, although Eunha did not know the reason. He still extended his right hand to build a good relationship with her. Little did he know that in the future, their fates would become completely intertwined. Time quickly passed day by day, and with the arrival of winter vacation, what should have been a joyful time. But Eunha's expression was now utterly desolate, because tomorrow would be the day that changed his family's fate. The man's first action after being reborn to the past was to prevent his family from visiting grandmother. Hearing this, his parents thought he had gone mad. They quickly comforted him, saying that grandmother was not some terrible monster. But only he knew that, except for him, they would die on the way to grandmother's house, becoming victims of the Kraken's first invasion of the safe zone. So he used the upcoming Children's Day as an excuse to suggest postponing the visit to grandmother. However, just as his parents had compromised, they received an urgent phone call. His mother immediately became panicked, learning through the phone that grandmother had suddenly collapsed and urgently needed family members to come care for her. Hearing this, Eunha's heart trembled violently. In his previous life, until he entered the player academy, grandmother had been fine. Could it be that his attempt to change the predetermined future had caused grandmother's injury? If he did not make a decision now, grandmother might suffer unexpected harm. But would this not mean that now was no different from before his rebirth? At this moment, Eunha fell into a cycle of self-doubt. However, having lived 2 lives, he quickly calmed down. No, there was still a huge difference from the previous life, and it was himself. Compared to his previous life, he now not only possessed rich combat experience, but also had magic power sufficient to battle monsters, built through persistent training from childhood. Since he could not change the fate of his family encountering the Kraken, then he would face the Kraken himself. However, even so, he was still no match for the level 3 monster sea creature. So his goal was only one: to delay as much time as possible. Just like in his previous life, wait for the 12 thrones to appear and defeat the Kraken. Therefore, before departure, Eunha took out the most lethal weapons he could currently possess: scissors and craft knives. Do not underestimate these small tools. As long as they were wrapped in magic power, they could cause considerable damage even to level 3 monsters. After preparing everything, Eunha shouldered his backpack, ready for a life or death battle with the Kraken. Sure enough, exactly like his previous life. At this moment, the car was stuck on the bridge leading to grandmother's house. The long journey had made everyone somewhat tired. However, Eunha's nerves were stretched to the extreme, because in his previous life, the Kraken had appeared suddenly while the car was crossing the bridge. But why had they reached the middle of the bridge and Kraken still had not appeared? Could it be that his actions had once again caused the future to change? If so, then please let them pass the bridge safely. But in the next second, a tremendous explosion echoed across the entire sea area, and the solid bridge was severed in half by an unknown force. Steel and concrete debris flying through the air swept over passing vehicles like raindrops, as if mocking Eunha's unrealistic wishes. making him fully understand that predetermined fate would never be changed. The level 3 catastrophic monster sea creature, wielding its massive tentacles, appeared before everyone. Wherever its tentacles passed, nothing survived, and various debris in the Kraken's hands. Those were like toys, merely entertainment tools to relieve its boredom. Terrified people cried out for help from players. However, Eunha knew very well that the strongest player stationed in the city was only sea level. No match for the Kraken, defeated in an instant by the city's strongest guard unit. The surviving players, with their survival instincts peaked, dared not advance, even running faster than civilians, because more monsters would soon emerge from the sea floor, and those who ran slowly were all impaled by flying spears. At this time, countless divers slowly climbed up along the walls. The moment they climbed up, they targeted the defenseless civilians, even though players immediately went to intercept them. They found they were still no match for the divers. In just moments, the player team of with 100 members was slaughtered to fewer than 10. Everyone was stunned by the horrific scene before them. Fortunately, Eunha's fierce shout, "Don't look back, everyone run now!" This snapped everyone back to their senses, and they ran toward the bridge edge. But it was this shout that alerted the Kraken. It immediately used its tentacles to grab a pile of cars, shooting them toward the crowd at extreme speed. Even though they barely avoided the debris, one car happened to crash into an oil tanker, instantly causing a massive explosion. The huge fire barrier blocked their only escape route. What made everyone even more desperate was that reinforcements from the 12 thrones were still 30 minutes away. This meant there was no way out at this time. Although the divers were being eliminated one by arriving players, if no one could stop the Kraken, everyone would die here. Thinking of this, Eunha hesitated no longer. He pulled out his weapons, the craft knives and scissors. After all, he had decided from the beginning that even if he sacrificed his life, he would protect his family. He then resolutely gripped the craft knife and ran toward the Kraken. When he was about to reach the Kraken, Eunha gathered magic power in his legs and used the skill Sky Step. He moved at extreme speed across the tops of cars. But he had not run far when every muscle in Eunha's body cried out in pain. Indeed, using the skill with a child's body was too burdensome. But this was the only way he could quickly approach and bypass its tentacles, as Eunha used the momentum to fly into midair. When he appeared again, the previously invincible divers were helpless against his blade. In just an instant, he slaughtered all the blocking divers. Before he could celebrate, a sneaky one hiding under a car opened its bloody maw, preparing to deal Eunha a fatal blow. Fortunately, he was focused and jumped to avoid it, then injected magic power and fiercely stabbed into the diver's head. But unfortunately, there were too many monsters, and the craft knife was just an ordinary weapon. After slaying the last diver, it finally broke under the strain, shattering into pieces. But Eunha was not panicked at all. He immediately pulled out another weapon, the scissors, breaking them apart into two halves. Tremendous magic power attached to them formed blue laser short blades. At this moment, Eunha approached the Kraken. "I'll use this to turn you into sashimi." Feeling humiliated, the Kraken swung its massive tentacles, striking fiercely at Eunha. But against Eunha's agile movements, it was completely useless. Taking advantage of the Kraken's attack interval, Eunha saw his chance and climbed to the top using the tentacles. Then he leaped down, plunging the blade deep into the Kraken's body. Using his body's gravity, he carved two huge wounds on its body, then pulled out the scissors again, frantically repeating the stabbing and pulling motions. The intense pain caused the Kraken to swing its tentacles, striking fiercely at Eunha. Seeing this, Eunha quickly jumped to safety, reformulating his plan, because one of the scissors had bent beyond use. But for Eunha, this was actually a good thing. He immediately concentrated all his magic power on the remaining scissors, and violent magic power burst forth, even cutting through the air with lightning. But Kraken was prepared fully. It made several of attacks toward Eunha, but all ineffective. And more importantly, Eunha's magic power was nearly exhausted. Watching the Kraken gradually destroy the bridge's supporting pillars, about to reach his family hiding behind him. Suddenly, powerful magic power surged skyward. Eunha slashed toward the Kraken's swinging tentacles. But at the last moment, the magic power suddenly dissipated, and Eunha stumbled and collapsed to the ground. Exhausted magic power and an overdrawn body left Eunha completely unable to move. If he collapsed and lost consciousness here, everything he had done would be in vain, as Eunha's vision grew increasingly narrow. But there were still 15 minutes until the 12 thrones arrived. Just as the monster's tentacles were about to crush Eunha, a pair of small hands filled with sacred magic power suddenly appeared from behind him, holding him tightly and shouting, "Don't hurt my brother!" In that instant, a tremendous golden pillar of light shot skyward. Just touching it turned the Kraken's tentacles to ash. Eunha looked in disbelief at his sister who was protecting him, because at this moment a miracle had occurred. That was a skill capable of breaking the natural laws of the world and reconstructing it. You must know that in his previous life, only 4 people on the entire planet possessed the skill miracle. And Lee Yujung, Eunha's most trusted companion, had used this very skill to send him back to when he was 1 year old. Under the sacred and holy light attribute magic power, Eunha discovered in amazement that it not only prevented krakens from harming them, but also gradually restored his exhausted magic power and body. But all of this came at a price. Every player who activated the skill miracle and reconstructed the world paid an unimaginable price. So Eunha anxiously asked, "Sister, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" "Me? I don't feel uncomfortable anywhere." Just as she finished speaking, his sister slowly fell into Eunha's arms. The barrier also disappeared with her, turning into golden light particles that entered his sister's body. And this was precisely the price his sister had to pay, except for minimal magic power maintaining her heartbeat. All bodily functions were essentially equivalent to zero. Fortunately, the release time was short, so with proper rest she could recover. So Eunha adjusted to a comfortable sleeping position, gently placing his sister on the ground. The next second, his eyes became increasingly cold. Tremendous magic power gushed from his body. His small figure formed a shining point of light before the massive kraken. At this moment, Eunha could feel that his physical condition was the best it had ever been. Facing the rapidly approaching tentacles, he not only did not dodge, but simply waved lightly and severed the tentacles that had troubled all players. "I will absolutely not let you touch even a hair on my sister." The battle erupted. At this moment, the kraken no longer hid its strength, desperately wanting to tear apart the humans behind the boy. If it let him release that skill again, it would surely die. But the tiny human before it seemed like a different person, repeatedly cutting off its prized tentacles, because at this moment, Eunha had completely dispelled the fear in his heart. Even though he still could not defeat the kraken, the future had changed, and his family members had not died. He just needed to hold on until the 12 thrones arrived. And there were still 5 minutes until the 12 thrones' arrival. So Eunha spared nothing, pushing his magic power to the extreme. Again and again, cutting off the tentacles trying to approach his sister. Just as Eunha's magic power was about to be depleted, the 12 thrones arrived carrying a sword burning with flames. With just a casual strike, the burning flames caused the kraken's tentacles to lose their regenerative ability. Immediately, wails echoed across heaven and earth. With a splash, it dove back into the sea. As the bridge returned to calm once more, Eunha not only did not thank him, but instead held his sister with a wary expression. Because Eunha knew, Flame Demon Kang Hyunchul was a complete battle maniac, and only powerful opponents could ignite his bloodthirsty fighting instincts. In his previous life, whenever Flame Demon Kang Hyunchul had a chance, he would seek out Eunha for duels, but Eunha had never won against him. Not only that, Kang Hyunchul would grow stronger with each battle. He was simply a monster born for combat. Besides this, Eunha knew little else about him. He did not understand this person's true nature. If he learned that his sister possessed the skill miracle, he feared what outrageous actions he might take. Looking at the wary boy before him, Kang Hyunchul tried to make himself appear as gentle as possible. "Don't worry, my purpose here is only that kraken. I have no intention of fighting you. At least not now." With that, Kang Hyunchul looked toward the sea again. At this time, the kraken was using seawater to extinguish the flames and slowly recovering from its injuries, seemingly knowing that losing the ground advantage was unfavorable. The moment it recovered, it began wantonly destroying the bridge's foundation. This put Kang Hyunchul in a difficult position, as he could not protect the children while fighting the kraken. Just as he was at a loss, 2 water-formed foundations protected the collapsing bridge. The timely reinforcement came from one of the 12 thrones, Holy Mother Park Hyerim. Although she was quite dissatisfied with Demon Flame calling her Holy Mother, she still raised her staff, casting multiple enhancement spells on Demon Flame. After instructing the Holy Mother to take care of the children, Demon Flame dove headfirst into battle with the kraken. A ball of flame actually burned fiercely in the seawater, watching tentacles swinging from all directions. The moment they struck, earth-shaking collision sounds erupted. But this not only caused no damage, it actually ignited Demon Flame's more bloodthirsty fighting instincts. He raised his long sword wrapped in scorching flames, and swung it forward fiercely. Boundless flames instantly engulfed the kraken's massive body. Agonizing wails echoed across the sea, as the flames attached to Demon Flame's body gradually dissipated. A smile appeared on Eunha's face. The kraken that had caused his entire family's death in his previous life was finally eliminated. At this moment, the Holy Mother hurried to Eunha's side, preparing to heal them, but discovered they were not injured. The Holy Mother was now completely certain that the miracle magic that had appeared must have emanated from this girl. Thinking of this, the Holy Mother excitedly wanted to touch his sister, but was stopped by Eunha's cold words, "Don't touch my sister." Hearing this, the Holy Mother's heart trembled. She could not believe that a child would have such terrifying killing intent. What exactly was his identity? The two were then taken to the hospital. Fortunately, after examination, it was just magic power depletion caused by insufficient magic power, and they would recover with magic power potions. At this moment, Eunha's tense nerves finally relaxed. Everything was over. His family had all survived, and the future had truly been changed. But just then, a voice that made him tremble rang out. Looking back, his parents had anxiously rushed to the hospital room. Seeing the lively Eunha and his sister lying in bed, they could not utter a single word of the scolding they had prepared. At this moment, Eunha had only one thought: I will be dead. After learning that both were unharmed, his father sternly lectured, "Why didn't you listen and ran off by yourself?" Hearing this, Eunha lowered his head and said, "I'm sorry." Eunha, who appeared to be apologizing, was actually thinking that as long as his family members were alive, it was the best outcome for him. As for his parents, a sincere apology would suffice. But when he looked up at his parents, his heart trembled. Anxiety, worry, and disappointment were fully displayed on his parents' faces. At this moment, Eunha realized that what his parents cared about was not the result, but the process of him taking it upon himself to deal with the Kraken. Truly feeling his parents' emotions and his family members who were still alive, Eunha could no longer hold back, tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry, I will never act rashly again." Seeing Eunha's sincere apology, his mother gently extended her arms, pulling Eunha into a gentle embrace. "Next time, don't be so reckless." Mom and Dad were so worried. The next morning, his parents, whose trust in Eunha was at zero, left only after countless warnings and instructions to handle discharge procedures. Eunha, who had been through intense battles, seemed particularly interested in sweets, but no matter how he searched, he could not find any remaining chocolate. At this time, a chocolate bread was handed to him. Eunha, who was about to thank him, suddenly discovered that this person was none other than Flame Demon Kang Hyunchol, startling him so much that his outstretched hand froze in midair. Seeing this, Kang Hyunchol asked puzzledly, "What's wrong? Do you like chocolate bread?" He then took the initiative to tear open the packaging and stuffed it into Eunha's mouth. His purpose for coming here was to recommend that the siblings enter the player academy. This actually made Eunha's body begin to tremble. Is this guy planning to play a nurturing game? Train me to become a player, then duel with me when I'm an adult? Fortunately, Kang Hyunchol was not aggressive. "It's okay, you're still young and can consider it slowly. Contact me when you've made up your mind." He then left the hospital room. The Holy Mother on the side asked in confusion, "That's it? That's the skill miracle that has never appeared in our country before. Are you an idiot?" Hearing this, Kang Hyunchol retorted, "I'm not an idiot. If this matter were reported, the moment it's reported, their peaceful lives would be shattered. That's not something you'd want to see. So stop thinking about any miracles." After his sister was discharged from the hospital, the family drove to grandmother's house. The long journey plus the life-or-death battle with the Kraken made Eunha sleep the entire way in the car, until he was awakened by sleep paralysis at night. He discovered that his sister's sleeping posture was astonishing, with her entire body pressed on top of him. "So why does my usually well-behaved and beautiful sister have such terrible sleeping habits?" Eunha quickly discovered. It was fun. That while Dad appeared to be sound asleep, he had actually been dead for quite a while. Mom had him in a chokehold, tightly restricting Dad's throat. So sister's terrible sleeping habits actually come from Mom. After tucking his sister in, Eunha, unable to sleep, came alone to the small courtyard, because he urgently needed to confirm his physical condition. After the battle with the Kraken, the magic power in his body had miraculously improved. Even Eunha, who had reached the pinnacle in his previous life, was unclear about the cause. Could it be his skill? Before his rebirth, Eunha's skill was called Berserk, a skill that gradually improved physical attributes and magical effects as magic power was consumed. True to its name, at the moment magic power was depleted, he would instantly lose rationality and become a bloodthirsty killer. But what puzzled Eunha was that he had not lost his rationality at that time. If he could use Berserk in this life without suffering the side effects of losing control, it should be the best outcome for Eunha. But did this not mean Eunha's understanding of Berserk's essence was wrong? Seeing Eunha lost in thought, grandmother asked with concern, "Why are you up so early?" Then she draped a blanket over Eunha, fearing her grandson would catch cold. This warm interaction with grandmother inevitably reminded Eunha of his previous life, when he was lost in thought. She would silently stay by his side. Whether he wanted to confide his troubles or chat casually, grandmother would always wait for him to speak first, always considering Eunha's feelings. So Eunha smiled and asked, "Why isn't grandmother sleeping either?" Grandmother then cheerfully replied, "That's because I saw my dear grandson outside alone, not sleeping either." At this moment, Eunha seemed to truly become a 6-year-old child again, returning to the days he had dreamed of in his previous life. Grandmother then asked if he wanted some hot milk. Just as Eunha was about to refuse, his mother appeared behind Eunha carrying steaming hot milk. "Then what should we do with this extra cup?" After Eunha accepted the hot milk, his mother brought up what everyone wanted to know. Why did grandmother suddenly get hurt? Fortunately, grandmother's fall down the stairs that day resulted in only minor scrapes. But grandmother's answer left his mother feeling incredulous. "Should I call it a daydream? I saw your father when I was going upstairs." Hearing this, his mother anxiously interrupted, wanting to take grandmother to the hospital immediately for a checkup. Grandmother waved her hand. "I'm not senile yet. Let me finish." At that time, he kept waving at me, as if telling me I couldn't go there. But thinking about it now, it seems he wasn't speaking to me, but to you all. What's even more amazing is that I dreamed of him again just now. He said there was a beautiful little deer outside that was lonely. With that, she lovingly stroked Eunha. Then I came out and saw Eunha. Hearing this, his mother also said in surprise, I also dreamed of Dad just now, and he handed me a little deer. Then I woke up. Then she looked at Eunha. Eunha, what kind of person do you want to become when you grow up? Hearing this, Eunha fell into deep thought. A strange black aura quietly emerged. Countless lonely spirits and vengeful ghosts let out heart-wrenching screams. Just as the ghosts were about to touch Eunha, Eunha suddenly awakened. Looking back, it was his mother's hand. It seemed that after saving his parents, Eunha had instantly lost his life's purpose. He did not want to live the life of constant danger from his previous life. At this time, grandmother's warm words rang in his ears. It's okay not to know. You're still young. You can understand slowly later. You'll experience happy things and sad things. You might reach life's lowest point, and you might also reach life's peak. But someday, you'll know what you want to do yourself. If you still don't know by then, just live until the day you figure it out. Hearing this, Eunha muttered to himself, Grandmother, you're just telling me to live freely. Then his mother and grandmother hugged Eunha tightly. Whatever you do, we'll support you, because you are Eunha. His family's encouragement touched Eunha's already numb heart. Like the rising sun, bright and warm. After spending a pleasant winter vacation, he returned to the school life Eunha found tedious. So we had the opening scene. Taking advantage of when everyone's attention was not on him, Eunha timed it perfectly to sneak out. He then went to the library he frequented, but upon entering, Eunha made the well-behaved, quiet girl cry. Just because Eunha misspoke and revealed the entire ending of the book the girl was reading. Watching Hayoung crying loudly, Eunha, who did not know how to comfort girls, could only flee the library in embarrassment. However, one wave had not settled when another arose. Eunha, returning to the classroom, was immediately challenged by the blonde boy to a sword duel. This happened to suit everyone's intentions. On one side were the boys who were jealous of Eunha's good relationships with girls. On the other side was the rival girls' faction, and there was Shiyang, whom he had just made cry, putting Eunha in a difficult position. He had no choice but to take up the plastic sword, and amid everyone's cheers, the battle began. However, the outcome was predictable. How could the blonde boy beat Eunha's opponent? With just one strike, he completely incapacitated the blonde boy. His handsome and powerful fighting ability made Eunha become the target of the children's adoration. Amid the cheers, Eunha approached the king's sword and pulled out, the long sword symbolizing the strongest in kindergarten. However, not far from the kindergarten, in the silent park, opposite to the joyful laughter, a blood-stained phone lay alone on the ground. Only a black shadow holding a wooden stick could be vaguely seen. However, not long ago, the teacher had been happily distributing delicious ice cream. But just then, two different small hands chose the same chocolate ice cream. When Eunha discovered it was his nemesis Minji, his hand, which was originally about to let go, gripped tightly and refused to release it. The already hot weather escalated further due to their argument. The teacher helplessly watched the two bickering, then snatched the ice cream away. He broke it in half and placed the pieces in their respective hands. I've said that friends cannot fight, but Minji and Eunha were still unwilling to give up, proposing that whoever won could get the other half of the ice cream. This made the teacher so angry and his whole body shook, and he gave each of them a small knock on the head before they settled down. At this time, the teacher suddenly asked, Why don't I see Yoonhyuk? Usually he's the most eager one when there's food to eat. Upon hearing this, Minji responded nonchalantly, he just lost to Eunha, and is probably hiding in the back garden practicing swordsmanship. Seeing this, the kind-hearted Hayoung volunteered to bring ice cream to Eunhyuk, which confused Minji. He bullies you so much normally, yet you still want to deliver it to him? Unexpectedly, Hayoung didn't mind at all, instead thinking, everyone else gets to eat, but he's the only one who doesn't get any. How heartbroken would he be if he found out? So the teacher handed the ice cream to Hayoung. Hayoung then ran toward the back garden. After Hayoung left, everyone began playing the freeze and unfreeze game. Eunha, who didn't want to participate, was forcibly dragged into the courtyard by Minji, who had been specially instructed by his sister. As expected, unlucky Eunha became the one who had to catch others, for revenge. He immediately targeted Minji, who had run far away. But just as he was about to touch her, Minji shouted freeze, forcing Eunha to abandon the chase. However, this little trick couldn't stop him. He then moved with lightning speed, catching a boy who hadn't shouted freeze. Thus, the catcher role was switched. He immediately sprinted behind Minji, revealing a triumphant smile. Unfreeze! Minji, who hadn't reacted in time, immediately switched roles with the little boy. The furious Minji frantically chased after Eunha. But just as Minji was about to catch Eunha, he suddenly braked and stopped in place, constantly looking around. Eunha couldn't imagine that such powerful killing intent would appear in the kindergarten. The next second, a green claw carrying sharp talons gripped tightly onto the nearby railing. Eunha turned around sharply, only to see a goblin wielding a giant axe on the wall, surveying everyone and letting out sinister, eerie laughter. With a boom, it landed on the ground, raised the giant axe in its hands, and swung it toward the nearest little girl. At the critical moment, a blue magical force knocked the giant axe from the goblin's hands, and the one who acted was Eunha. Unfortunately, there were too many goblins, and Eunha couldn't fight them while rescuing people at the same time. Just as he prepared to eliminate all the enemies before him in one go, a teacher suddenly appeared with a broom, blocking a goblin that wanted to attack Eunha, taking advantage of knocking down the monster. He then threw the broom forcefully. It hit the monster's weak point hard. He then grabbed Eunha and picked up the little girl whose legs had gone weak, quickly fleeing the scene. Unfortunately, the teacher wasn't a professional player, and the weight of 2 children greatly reduced his movement speed. The first goblin to recover was already swinging its giant axe and flying through the air. Seeing this, Eunha gathered his magical power, and with just a whoosh sound, he instantly made the airborne goblin lose consciousness, and it was crashing into its companions rushing from behind. Thanks to this gap, the teacher safely brought everyone to a safe zone. The teacher, who had been motionless for a long time, instantly collapsed to the ground. At this moment, Eunha began looking around, but suddenly discovered Hayoung and Yoonhyuk were nowhere to be seen here. The teacher anxiously jumped up, about to rush toward the back garden, but was grabbed by a female teacher nearby. "You're the only one here with magical power. If you leave, no one can guarantee the children's safety." Meanwhile, a scream came from the back garden. At this moment, a goblin was holding the trembling Yoonhyuk. Then it raised its giant axe to strike down at Eunhyuk. At the critical moment, Hayoung desperately pushed the magical power within her body, sending the goblin flying dozens of meters away. But this strike didn't cause any damage to the goblin. Watching the monster stagger forward, Yoonhyuk closed his eyes. Suddenly, he grabbed the stunned Hayoung and ran toward the distance. But the goblin revealed a sinister smile, because there was nowhere for the two to hide. So Eunhyuk told Hayoung to climb to the very top of the equipment. Then he raised the plastic sword in his hand, facing the terrifying goblin alone. Even though he knew he couldn't win, even though his hands couldn't even hold the sword properly. Thinking of the scene where Flame Demon killed Krakens with his sword on TV, his courage filled his entire body at this moment. "Don't you dare take another step. As long as I do what I practiced in training, there will definitely be no problem." However, reality was ultimately cruel. The huge difference in strength was fully demonstrated the moment their weapons clashed. The sword in his hand was knocked far away. When facing the monster again, fear once more filled his entire body, and his limbs lost all ability to move. Just as the monster's giant axe was about to take Yoonhyuk's life, there was a bang sound, and Eunha appeared before everyone wielding a long sword.